Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and the War Within pre-patch update is in full swing, with so many players finally getting to experience a portion of the War Within's main features, but also a ton of new class changes. While we're still waiting for the hero talents, a lot of us are getting a chance to explore the new talent revamps, both for class talents and spec talents. With our classes being scaled for level 80 content rather than 70 at lower levels, things are a little bit wacky, with certain classes obviously ahead of everybody else. So in today's video, I wanted to highlight which classes are doing exceptionally well during this pre-patch update. With so many players coming back to experience the pre-patch event, test out all the different classes, play something fun and maybe even something powerful, or dive into Miss Pandora Remix for the first time if you've been away from the game for a while. And if you're looking for one of the stronger, more exceptional classes that is currently has an advantage during this limited pre-patch window, then I want to list 5 DPS specs that I think are definitely worth picking up, mostly because the damage they're doing right now is absolutely out of control. But I will include other features as well, because every one of these has been improved massively, going from Dragonflight to the War Within expansion. As always, if you guys enjoy this kind of regular update videos for War Within, be sure to follow the channel. Otherwise, let's dive right in. So one of those specs I think it's an easy recommend is the Frosty Death Knight. It is a spec that I'm so excited for the endgame content of War Within, but even right now in pre-patch you can explore and enjoy a ton of different benefits of this spec specifically. Now, the beta builds for pre-patch and the beta itself are a little bit different. Not all of the different class changes or even specific nerfs have made it into the pre-patch that may exist in a beta. That being said, Frost Death Knight is one of those classes that actually avoided a lot of those upcoming nerfs that are not even holding him back down even that much right now in the current beta build. Like, even as they keep nerfing this class, it continues to dominate as one of the stronger melee in the game. That's, I think, it's just one of the easiest ones you can invite into any high-end dungeons because it's just so effective. And Frost Death Knights are doing incredibly good over on the pre-patch for a multitude of reasons, primarily through their talents. Right now, most Death Knights are playing a two-handed legendary focused build, so a lot of them are going to invest into Arctic Assault, as well as the ability of Glacial Advance, not as heavily into Shattering Blade and Shatter Frost combo, which is effective, but they're picking up Long Winter, Icy Death Torrent, and Smothering Offenses, and they do absolutely astronomical amounts of damage, plenty of Obliterate resets, and with a new Cleaving Strikes that's a little bit more, has a bit of a leeway, so Leaving Death Indicate doesn't completely remove your cleave potential. Frost Death Knights are doing absolutely monstrous damage right now. Though even if you're coming back for your Death Knight and you don't have the legendary, you're in luck, because you can still play the dual wield Death Knight either as a full breath build, which I haven't seen as many people play, or you can go for this hybrid build that invests heavily into Shattering Blade, Shattering Frost, so you Frost Strike to AoE. During your Obliterate windows, you're getting those Obliterates out, and that's free Glacial Advances on top of it. With Icy Death Torrent and dual wielding, you're doing a ton of freebie frosty damage that just ends up cleaving everything around you. So Frost Death Knights right now have a couple of different playstyles that are available to them, whether you play as a two-handed or dual wield. There's more options than before, and the spec itself is just doing more damage than most other melee. So even if you're running around on a very undergeared Death Knight, your damage is actually going to be very comparable to some players that are 20 or even 30 item levels above you, which is something that I was able to actually enjoy myself playing on a Death Knight that still has Season 3 gear against everybody else that's running the newest Dragonflight gear available. Now, another melee class that's incredibly easy to recommend is also Survival Hunter. A lot of you guys asked me that, okay, Survival in a beta, very popular, but how is that popularity going to translate into pre-patch? And that is where, honestly, I was a little bit worried, because it is not the first time that we've seen a spec or a class perform incredibly well in a development build like PTR or pre-patch or beta or whatever it may be, and then once it comes out to live realms, it just doesn't quite pick up nearly as much as people thought. Survival has gone through too many changes with the upgraded mastery, so many different talents that weave out from one another, and the playstyle has a lot more intricacy, and so far their success has been pretty great and became a very popular choice so far for the pre-patch. There was a bug that allowed their grenades as well as explosive shots to basically apply to too many targets, and you got this like AoE circular rotation where you'll grenade, get the resets on grenade, grenade again, get resets on grenade over and over and over, which I think definitely boosted the popularity at the very beginning, but checking out some of the different logs in the class's performance after the nerfs, after they fixed this bug, hunters are still doing pretty well. Survival is actually being played quite a lot, and a lot more players are accepting them as a melee class. I wanted to put this one on a list specifically because it doesn't happen that often. Survival Hunter has always been, for expansions now for a couple of years, the meme class that not as many players pick up, unless it for some reason does exceptional amounts of damage above all others like they did back in Shadowlands Season 3. But for the most part, not a lot of players invite Survival Hunters or play with Survival Hunters or even pick one to pick up as an alt ever. And now would be the perfect time to pick one up since they are actually playable, they're actually wanted in groups, and they're actually becoming a lot more accepted, which is a trend I love to see for some of the lesser played classes as they get improvements on expansion to expansion. Another melee spec that I want to add to this list will be easily an easy choice here, Fury Warrior. Fury Warriors, I feel like, is one of those classes that doesn't really need a lot in an expansion in order to be enjoyable. All that needs to be is a little bit of variety of gameplay and a couple of different talent choices and builds. It needs to have a good core class talents, which I think they've done a really good job with so far for the pre-patch, and I love the amount of AoE damage that this spec is able to output right now, which I think has been the bread and butter of Fury for a couple of expansions now. And Fury, I think, is at its peak as of this moment in pre-patch. It is an exceptionally good melee class. As for the spec talent trees for Fury, I feel like they basically kept the same core, but they did end up adjusting a couple of key things that I was really happy about. First of all, the implementation of Frenzied Enrage versus Powerful Enrage, I feel like was done rather well. They removed Annihilator out of the playstyle where your Raging Blow would basically become an extra bonus auto attack talent, making the ability passive, but also taking it out of rotation, offering a much slower gameplay for Fury Warrior. They wanted for Fury to go back to using Raging Blow and Bloodthirst, but they wanted to give players a slower alternative option with Powerful Enrage, or a faster paced carpal tunnel inducing gameplay that many are used to with Frenzied Enrage. And so far in pre-patch, it looks like both of them have been implemented rather well. That still allows Fury Warriors to be able to change the way that they play, whether they want a fast-paced or a slower but more powerful version of Fury, and so far it's worked out rather well. The implementation of Bladestorm to make it an actually usable ability together with Unhinged has made it a very fun button to press in AoE, and I feel like it sets it up for the future Slayer playstyles going forward. Even the damage of Odin's Fury, I feel like, has been turned up to an 11, and the button is really fun to press in the current version of pre-patch. Even the differences between anger management and reckless abandon I feel like are a little bit more even, where you could choose either, again, better cooldown reduction, more rage, more recklessness uptime, or you can go with reckless abandon for more powerful versions of Raging Blow and Bloodthirst, giving Fury Warriors actually some key choices of how you want to play. Combined together with a class challenge tree that offers them a full suite of utility, from their leaps, Stormbolt, heal, reflect, even the ability to shock with multiple targets without having to sacrifice any of their capstones, I feel like puts them in a much better situation where you actually have some choices with your talent trees. I felt like the Dragonflight version of Fury Warrior was kind of limited on ability to pick and choose which talents because the talent economy didn't really allow for that, but the restructure they've done so far I feel like puts Fury in a much more fun spot to enjoy on the pre-patch, and the spec only gets to get better as we get to level further to level 71 and all the way to 80 in War Within, and we get access to the flavorful hero talent options. Now, so far, we talked mostly about melee classes and some of the different options that I can recommend, but when it comes to range classes, I feel like your very first stop shop should be Elemental at the very bare minimum. There's a lot of good range classes right now in pre-patch. Some are doing way better than others, but Elemental has literally taken the world by storm. Pardon the pun. The spec itself has gone through a massive restructure with this class talent tree, and right now, supported by the tier set, you are leaning more into a lava focused build, but man is it good. Ascendance is a button, having access to the ability, the way to buff it either with better cooldowns or with a much bigger burst window, plus deeply rooted elements really helps complete the playstyle and make it really good to play instead of having to deal with the RNG or a once in a while 3-minute button. The rest of the talent tree, though, and some of the different options like the weaving of the elements with Ice Fury into fusion of the elements, the ability to pick between Earth Shock and Elemental Blast from the get-go, and then the ways that you can customize the talents, plus Earthquake that you can just place under the feet of whatever target you have is such a convenience thing. But the overall talent tree setup has been really fun to experiment with and play with. There's a lot of elemental shamans right now running around doing absolutely astronomical damage with barely any gear, and the class right now is scaling incredibly well, putting him way ahead of most other ranged classes right now in the current version of the pre-patch. Though if we're talking about in terms of just overall raw power of any ranged classes, I still think Beastmaster Hunter would have to be mentioned at least once. Now, at the very beginning of pre-patch, the class started out with a handful of bugs, where their tier set for Dragonflight was benefiting them too greatly with the Huntmaster's Call. Huntmaster's Call is a talent that once you summon a handful of dire beasts, you also get to summon Haughty and Fenrir. Both of these pets do significant amounts of damage in pre-patch and scale incredibly well. They did end up going back and fixing the tier set, so it has a bit less of an interaction with both Fenrir and Haughty. Both Fenrir and Haughty from Huntmaster's Call have also been reduced a little bit for the pre-patch event in order to make them a little bit less broken. And taking a look at the most recent numbers that Beastmaster Hunters have been able to put up after the nerfs. Before it, they were doing almost 1 million DPS. 900k, I think, DPS on a single target boss fight is the last number we were able to collect. With the most recent nerfs, however, it puts them down to about 850,000 DPS, which is still ahead of many other classes when it comes to comparing a fully geared Beastmaster Hunter against the second best single target fully geared DPS class. Beastmaster Hunters are still, even after the changes, are doing ludicrous amounts of single target damage with very little gear requirements. So if you're looking for a very easy class that's highly effective when it comes to pure single target content, like raid content, or maybe even dungeons to a degree, Beastmaster Hunters are actually doing incredibly well. They're very comparable to other classes, and the entire class challenge tree, even though it is the spec challenge tree in particular, even though it's not as detailed of a rework as what Survival has gotten, or what some of the other classes have gotten, like Shamans for example, it is still highly effective and puts Beast Mastery ahead of certain other classes. Plus, there's also a little bit more of a nuance to it, especially with Basilisk Collar, where damage over time abilities can strictly amplify your pet damage. So if you wanted to have a little bit extra, even though not a crazy amount of complexity, but a slight bit of complexity and skill cap added, Beastmaster Hunter got plenty of it, and right now the spec is doing absolutely amazing when it comes to its performance and keys and dungeons. So if you're looking for an easy one-stop shop for a class to play in pre-patch, Beastmaster Hunter is an easy recommend. But with that being said, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this list video, and I do hopefully you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy it or found it informative, like if this video helped you decide which alt you're gonna level next, either for the pre-patch event or for Miss Pandaria remix, which is still ongoing, then be sure to give this video a like. I very much appreciate it. And also, if you want to share with me in the comments down below your personal list of some of the specs you think everybody should be checking out right now, you're invited to share your own list in the comment section of this video. Also, join our Discord community, link to that in every single one of the videos. Would love to have you guys join us up, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.